There is an interesting system which has been ignored for quite some time now, and that is vortex fuel reforming. This is a very important internal combustion fuel technology which has been around for more than 100 years. The objective is to increase miles per gallon performance not just by the vaporization of the fuel, but also by cracking the water-fuel mixture into smaller molecules before being fed into the engine. This is a more advanced than the fuel conversion to vapor technique used by the high miles per gallon carburetors. To get a better understanding of this, you can try a Google search for fuel reformer or steam reforming, which will provide additional information which may help you to understand the basic principles. The fuel reforming method can be highly effective, and its effectiveness has been proven beyond all doubt with designs from Caltech, Phillips Petroleum, Nissan Motors, NASA, universities, and other very serious contributors. Some years ago, Caltech spent millions proving that onboard fuel reformers would give us all better fuel economy and cleaner air. They did long-term testing on buses and cars to provide proof. They teamed up with the very large auto parts supplier Arvin Mentor to put them into production vehicles. Then One Equity Partners bought out Arvin Meritor's division that did all the final work to get fuel reformers in all our vehicles. They created a new company, MCon Technologies, and that company dropped the fuel reformer from their product line, not because it did not work, but because it did work. There are various techniques for achieving this process. One which is easy to understand is shown here. You have a tube marked here in green which is used to pass a fuel water mix through, and that particular tube is heated up by exhaust gases from the engine passing through the larger exhaust pipe which surrounds the fuel water mix pipe. The standard exhaust pipe is given a kink to move it clear of its normal run in order to allow an extra straight pipe of small diameter to be positioned inside it, so that the hot exhaust gases are used to heat the incoming fuel flow. This is a useful energy gain, as it uses some of the waste heat, raising the overall efficiency of the engine very considerably. This extra fuel flow pipe has a solid magnetized ferromagnetic metal rod mounted inside it, blocking off most of the pipe area. This change in available flow area causes the fuel flow inside the pipe to speed up, and as well as that, it causes the flow to spiral around the rod in a vortex flow. However, the magnetism of the solid rod causes a most unusual effect, and instead of the helical gas flow being as shown above, a highly uneven flow pattern is caused. This causes the fuel flow to bunch up in the center of the tube, generating a hot spot which creates quite unexpected effects. And you can see it by the spacing of the lines in this particular diagram here. The hot spot is created by the closeness of the rotating path of the gas flow through the pipe. The really incredible result of this peculiar effect is that the fuel mix exiting from the tube contains chemical compounds and chemical components which did not enter the tube. That's impossible according to the present-day physics, which just goes to demonstrate once again that we really don't yet understand the world in which we live. The fuel mix for use in this system is best provided by two tiny carburetors, one feeding a fine mist of water droplets and the other feeding a fine mist of fuel droplets. These are fed directly into the intake of the fuel reformer, and these carburetors are generally of the miniature type used for radio control model aircraft, and their Venturi intakes are blanked off with a plate with a small hole in it. Air is not fed into the reforming tube. After all, this is a fuel reforming system. The air is mixed in with the reformatted fuel after it exits from the reformator, as shown in this diagram here. The air is mixed in with the reformatted fuel after it exits the reformator. Some of the hot gas is fed into both the carburetors in order to help prepare the mixture for the reformatting process. That means that there is a small bleed-off pipe taken from the normal exhaust system and fed to the blanked-off carburetor intake for the fuel and the blanked-off carburetor intake for the water. And the blanking off plate has only a small hole in it to reduce the amount of exhaust draft being drawn into the fuel. The use of carburetors is important, since using a bubbler, as suggested in the free plans on the internet, creates problems as the lighter fractions of the fuel get taken first, which is exactly what we don't want to happen. The carburetors have the massive advantage that they feed all fractions of the fuel together, and so the remaining fuel is always in the correct proportions. The ratio of water to fuel, typically petrol or diesel, can be adjusted over a very wide range, with some people using 90% water. Actually, there have been claims of running on 100% water using multiple reactors in parallel, with energy being drawn either from transmutation of elements or perhaps spin interactions with the local environment. Jean Chambrin's patent gives details of running only on water. There are several forums where members are researching and using various designs of fuel reformers, with the GEET, G-E-E-T designs being popular. The Tesla Tech Info website, shown in this link here, introduces the GEET version designed by Paul Pantone in considerable detail. Almost any hydrocarbon fuel can be used: vegetable oil, old motor oil, etc. I've even heard of orange juice being used as the fuel. The normal fuels are the most popular. A forum member named Brysher says in a YouTube video comment, "Everyone should really try this. It works. I spent a lot of time on this device. It's very simple. Just follow the plans and experiment as much as you can. Currently," he says, "I am using 90% water and 10% crude oil waste oil on a 1-ton 1969 Chevy truck. Get out in your shop and start work." These devices are often used on stationary generators. They've been popular in France for some years now. Jean found that the gases need to swirl inside his reactor in the same direction that the crank was turning. There are more than 220 patents on fuel reforming, but there's clearly been a lot of effort put in to avoid people finding these patents. In February 2015, Paul Pantone said, "The GEAT fuel processor GFP is an onboard, compact, plasma fuel refinery that renders just about any liquid into usable and highly volatile fuel by cultivating electromagnetic and other energy fields. And yes, we believe it is healthy for you and your engine too." The GFP retrofitted engine requires only a fraction of the fuel as the non-GFP retrofitted engine to pull the same load for the same duration of time. The exhaust from retrofitted engines reduces pollution and in some cases had added oxygen to the environment. The GFP works with any equipment that uses fuel. For information about GEAT, you can contact paul.pantone@yahoo.com or visit the www.geatinternational.com website, where there is a good deal of information.